We're with Coach Gundy. Of course, the Cowboys with a great Bedlam win last week, now headed to Orlando to take on UCF. Let's start about the recovery, if you will, from such a good win. You hear stories, and teams obviously that got too caught up in the previous week and struggled, but you also hear stories of coaches who rode their guys so hard after a big win that they went south because of that. So what's the appropriate balance? How do you manage this?
Well, that's a good point. I've seen it go both ways. As an assistant coach and as a head coach, I feel like I've done both. And so I tried to find that happy medium. There was no doubt it was an emotional, physical, draining win for our team. Monday at our running and walkthroughs, they were still drained. And it was a physical game. I'm sure they're beat up as much as we are. Tuesday was average, and I still saw the hangover. Wednesday was much better. So we talked about the commitment and the focus and the task at hand, the things that they have to understand. But what has helped with my job is we've had great leadership. Mm-hmm. You and I talked about it. We had Mikulski and Bowman and Preston and Presley. Then defensively you have Goodlow and Xavier Benson and Colin and Kendall, and those guys have been awesome, a number of them that have really helped.
So over the past 5 games in this win streak, it's interesting. In the first quarter, you've got off to these great starts, but you've been, in my estimation, about 56% pass and 44% run. How significant has the play of the wide receivers been in helping all of this happen from a run game standpoint?
Well, they've done a great job. Everybody has in our effort. Our staff has done a really good job in offsetting tendencies and play calling and such. It's starting to change now that defenses are entering another guy in the box. So we went through a Cincinnati game, part of the West Virginia game, and then, in my opinion, pretty much all of the Oklahoma game with them having an extra player to stop the run, which makes sense. And when that happens, there's going to be more pass. The good news is any time that we're 65-45 run pass either way, we're still in a balanced offense, which gives us more flexibility, in my opinion.
Sure. Defensively, you talked about this after the game, but this has been going on for a few weeks. You've got so many young guys in the secondary making plays, out there in crisis situations. What about guys like Dylan Smith, Cameron Epps, and others? What allows them to do that immediately? Because it's not like you see that all the time, do you?
One, I think they're just pretty good football players, and they have some savvy, a decent football IQ. Two, our coaches must be doing a good job with them.
Yeah.
But I will admit, I am surprised. You know, when you think about 3, 7, 8, 11, and 10, and I think all those guys are either freshmen or redshirt freshmen, and they're out there quite a bit. Our defense is hanging on and playing pretty good, and that if somebody would have said that to us in August, we would have been greatly concerned.
Sure.
In that standpoint, but they're playing pretty good football.
How's Ollie Gordon holding up? A lot of carries last 5 weeks, last 6 weeks, actually.
Physically, I think he's doing really good. Emotionally, it's a challenge for him every day. He's a social butterfly. He's got a great personality. He's very outgoing. So the combination of that and social media, I can only imagine what people are saying to him or about him on social media. I'm not on there, I don't know, but I can only imagine how many people are telling him how great he is.
Sure.
Then he deals with, you should be in the Heisman race, which he should be, but it's still tough for a young man that's 20 years old to not get caught up in all the different people telling him how good he is. So it's a challenge every day. Not because he wants to be in that position, but because human nature works against us in that position.
Sure. UCF, a team that has put up big offensive numbers, huge rushing numbers. What do they bring to the table from a run game standpoint, maybe that you haven't seen? Anything?
He's going to run his base zone play. Coach Malzahn, who essentially calls plays for them, he's run the same offense for a long time. They play fast. They'll run some counter. They'll run play action. They're always going to have 2 or 3 gadget plays. The reason they're consistent is because they don't get out of their box much. They stay with what they believe in. They play fast, or they'll slow down a little bit. and they've been good at it. They play with really fast guys. You know, the advantage of the geographical location of that school is there's speed all over the place, and they take advantage of it. They're converting 50% on third down.
Yeah.
That's a big number. So they're ahead of Kansas State in Manhattan at the start of the fourth quarter. And I don't think anybody's played within 4 touchdowns of Kansas State in Manhattan this year.
Yeah, they've hammered people.
In Norman, they were ahead of Oklahoma in the fourth quarter. So their record might not represent it, but this is a pretty good football team, and they're dangerous based on their ability to move the ball offensively and convert third downs.
What's their philosophy stopping the run? Because their numbers defending the run have been poor.
They have changed over the last 3 or 4 weeks, more run defense instead of balanced. They're going to play run defense against us. We know that. I mean, I guess we don't know it, but if we had to bet, I would bet on it, that they're going to have an extra guy in the box based on every formation we have. They'll play some man, and then they'll cover the middle of the zone and play some 3. But I can't imagine they're going to give equal numbers across the board defensively against our offense at this time.
Time to wrap up our show, as always, with What's Your Beef, brought to you by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. So it's really more of a question. With the portal, obviously, and I'm sure NIL plays a role in this, teams get beat up in November. Everybody does. How different is it now under these circumstances than what it was maybe 8-9 years ago pre-portal?
It's completely different. We actually have to have a meeting now of where we think we are with our team, current players who could potentially leave, current players that aren't playing as much as maybe they want to, who could potentially leave, and then some younger players who might see themselves as a lifetime backup or a 3 who could potentially leave. Then you look across the board, and we have to decide what would we be interested in to fit where these guys have left us. And you talked about the injury part of it. You'll have a number of guys that have injuries, and we don't know if they're coming back or not based on their injury, whether they physically can come back or if they're beat up and they're going to get surgeries that's going to put them out for 9 months. So it's a business now. It's much different than it had been in the past.
That's our show, the Cowboys and UCF this weekend. We'll see you next week.